How many years does it take a person to spend a night in every hotel in London? How many cups of tea do the British drink every day? What other sports, besides football, were invented in England? How old was Mary Shelley when she invented Frankenstein? Where is the largest maze in the world? Find out about all this and much more in our video Top 100 Plus Facts about the UK. London was founded around 43 AD during the invasion of Britain by the Romans under the leadership of Emperor Claudius. Initially, the city was called Londinium in Latin. There is no single constitution as a document in the country. All legislative acts and other regulatory documents exist in the form of disparate treaties, regulations and acts, many of which were adopted several hundred years ago and are still in force. The motto on the UK coat of arms is written in French, Dieu et mon droit, God and my right. The House of Commons is the only place in Britain where the Queen of England cannot enter, as she is not a member of the House. Britain has the oldest parliament in the world. Over the past 1,000 years, the UK has never spent more than 3 days without a government. Buckingham Palace is the official London residence of the British monarchs. Currently, the 830,000 square foot building has 775 rooms, including 19 official, 52 royal and guest bedrooms, 188 staff bedrooms, 92 offices, and 78 bathrooms. More than 300 languages are spoken by the people of the United Kingdom, as well as about 250 different language dialects. Windsor Castle is the largest castle in Europe that is permanently inhabited by the royal family and has been home to the British royal family for over 900 years. 10 Downing Street is also home to a cat, in addition to the Prime Minister. The current striped resident, named Larry, moved into the house in 2011 after being adopted from a cat and dog shelter. He is in the civil service, officially holding the position of Chief Mousecatcher. However, most of the time the official sleeps, and occasionally gets into fights with Palmerston, the chief mouser of the neighboring office of the Minister of Finance. With a population of almost 68 million people, the British drink 165 million cups of tea every day. At the same time, 86% of tea is drunk at home and only 14% outside. Lucky Diamond Rich, real name Gregory Paul McLaren, listed in 2006 in the Guinness Book of Records as the most tattooed person in the world. 99.9% of his skin surface is covered with tattoos. Having spent a total of more than 1,000 hours on tattoos, the former circus performer is almost completely covered with body art. Great Britain was the first country to use postage stamps back in 1840. They were called penny blacks, i.e. black penny. The cost of the stamp was 1 penny. However, they were issued for only a year. Britain has not been invaded for over 1,000 years. The last person to invade the island was Harald Hardrada in September 1066. He was a Norwegian king, from the Yngling dynasty, who founded Oslo. The British Museum in London contains about 8 million objects. It would take more than 60 years to see them all. Winston Churchill won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1953. Churchill's vocabulary is 65,000 words. For comparison, Shakespeare has only 15,000 words. In 1829, the Metropolitan Police of London was created. At that time, it consisted of 2 commissioners, 8 superintendents, 20 inspectors, 88 sergeants, and 895 constables. It was then that the first police box appeared. The most famous megalithic structure in the world is Stonehenge. It is located 130 kilometers from London. St. Paul's Cathedral in London is the largest in the UK and the 5th largest Christian cathedral in Europe. It was in Great Britain that the left-hand drive originated. Under the influence of the empire, it spread to the colonies of India, Pakistan, and Australia. In 1859, Queen Victoria's ambassador, Sir Elcock, convinced the Tokyo authorities to adopt left-hand traffic as well. Even in the United States, at first, people also drove on the left side, until the Americans gained independence from the British Crown. About half of the bicycles in the Netherlands are bicycles stolen from the UK. Edinburgh was the home of Greyfriars Bobby, a Skye Terrier who won the hearts of the nation by sitting on his late owner's grave for 14 years. The Great Smog enveloped London on December 5, 1952, and dissipated only on December 9. This event was a real environmental disaster that killed 12,000 people. The London Underground is the oldest subway in the world. Its first line, called the Metropolitan Railroad, opened in 1863 and connected 2 major railway stations with the city. More than 35 million tourists from around the world arrive in the UK every year. Every third European citizen wants to visit the UK. The Royal Navy of Great Britain is older than the Kingdom of England. It was founded in about 800 to 900 years. For 3 centuries, the country spoke Norman French when the English throne was seized by the Norman Duke William in 1066. Norman French was the official language of legislation, jurisprudence, and government officials. At that time, there were even kings, judges, and school teachers in England who did not know a word of English. English was spoken only by the poor. The raincoat was invented in 1824 in Scotland by chemist, architect, artist, and designer Charles Mackintosh, a native of Glasgow. In the UK, this piece of clothing is still called a mac. The English and Irish parliaments still print their acts on calfskin paper. Football, as a game of kicking a ball, has been known in England since the Middle Ages, but the rules we know today were first introduced on December 7, 1863, by the English Football Association. They were based on the rules of the game developed at Cambridge University. The Tower is a famous London fortress built almost 1,000 years ago. It is considered the oldest building in the British capital. During its long history, it has been a fortress, a mint, a prison, and even a zoo. The hats of the British Guards are made of grizzly bear fur, with officers' hats made of male fur. They are more effective, and privates' hats made of female fur. In the UK, more than 8,000 acres of land are used for golf courses. Madame Tussauds is a wax museum in the Marylebone neighbourhood of London, created in 1835 by sculptor Maria Tussauds. It has branches in 23 other cities around the world. The Royal Albert Hall can accommodate 8,000 people and has the largest organ in the UK with 14,722 pipes. Tower Bridge is an example of the triumph of 19th-century engineering. In the UK, there is a very strict law that prohibits hanging a bed from a window. The lowest temperature ever recorded in the UK was -27.2 degrees Celsius in January 1982. England has the largest number of locks per capita in the world. Women in the UK gained the right to vote in 1918. Great Britain has 29 UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Although the British are considered to be witty, research shows that most jokes are invented in Germany. Edinburgh was the first city in the world to have its own fire department. Foggy Albion, the name of the British Isles, has been known for many years. England got it because of the snow-white chalk cliffs and cliffs of Dover, located on the southern coast. Scotland boasts the shortest flight in the world. It lasts 1 minute 14 seconds from the island of Westray to the island of Papa Westray. Fans of mysticism should definitely visit the city of York. It is believed to be the most haunted city in Europe. In England, people will praise your English even if it's not good. This is because the people there feel a little embarrassed that everyone else has to learn their language. London has the longest shopping street in the world, Oxford Street. The world's first computer programmer was a woman, an Englishwoman named Ada Lovelace, Countess, the only legitimate daughter of the poet George Byron. One of the most famous Scottish drinks, whiskey, was actually invented in China. In England, the world's first club of ghost hunters appeared in the 18th century. According to a 1963 law, all dolphins in British waters and all swans on reservoirs are the property of the Queen. There are several uninhabited islands in the UK that can be owned by paying a license fee. Before 1832, there were only 2 universities in England, Oxford and Cambridge. England is one of the most student-oriented countries in the world. With 106 universities and 5 university colleges, England is among the world's top countries in terms of the number of educational institutions and is one of the leaders in the number of universities that are annually included in international rankings. About 500,000 foreigners come to study in England every year. The country is second only to America in this respect. According to statistics, most often foreign students come to England to study business, engineering, computer science, biomedical sciences, and law. School uniforms still exist in England. It is believed that it disciplines students and maintains a sense of equality. No matter where you go in England, you will never be more than 112 kilometers from the ocean. The oldest map of Great Britain dates back to 1150 BC. The only time all the crows left the tower was during World War II. Legend has it that if all the crows leave the tower, the monarchy will fall. In the UK, since 1973, people from the age of 13 can drive a car, provided that the car does not exceed 50 cubic centimeters. In the UK, there are no English language requirements for citizenship. Until the end of World War I, all police officers in Great Britain were men. The quarries of white limestone on Portland Island provide 20% of the world's needs for this material. In the 17th and 18th centuries in Britain there was a special position of the royal bottle opener of bottles with leaves caught in the ocean. People who opened such bottles unauthorizedly faced the death penalty. In London, subway passengers lose about 80,000 umbrellas every year. Big Ben is a bell, not a clock tower. In the late 19th century, Britain won the war against Zanzibar in 38 minutes. In England, there was a special person who was supposed to fire a cannon when Napoleon Bonaparte arrived in the kingdom. The position was abolished only in 1947, although the French emperor had died more than a century earlier. The London Eye Ferris wheel is the tallest in Europe. The oldest settlement on the territory of Great Britain is located in Scotland. It is called Skara Brae, and, according to archaeologists, it was founded more than 5,000 years ago. Traveling from England to the continent and back is easier than it seems. England and France are connected by an underwater tunnel for cars and trains. London is a very international city. 25% of its residents are immigrants born outside the UK. The City of London is nothing more than a ceremonial county in the centre of the British capital. It has its own mayor, coat of arms and anthem, its own fire and police services. In England, the monarchy is respected. Even a stamp with the Queen's portrait on it cannot be put upside down, and no one would even think of doing that. Also, the Queen of England cannot be sued, and she has never had her own passport. Have you heard that the British like to line up everywhere? Well, in England there is still a profession called queuing. Such a person will stand in line for you. His services will cost an average of £20 per hour. The British highly value privacy. It is not customary to come to visit uninvited or ask too personal questions. Great Britain is the only country in the world with the name of the state on its stamps. This is because the UK was the first country to use postage stamps. The most famous homicidal maniac of all time, Jack the Ripper, was active on the streets of London. On the last day of August in London, a competition is held between rubber ducks, which are sent on a voyage on the Thames. England is the birthplace of table tennis. The role of the net in this game for high society was originally performed by books. Scotland has 790 islands, but only 130 of them are inhabited by people. In 2011, the Barbican Theatre in London showed the play Lullaby. The audience sat on the beds and fell asleep peacefully, and in the morning they were served breakfast, which was included in the ticket price. The labyrinth of 16,000 English yew trees located on the territory of the Longleat Estate is the longest in the world. The London Postal Railway was nicknamed the Postal Railway and transported mail through the city for over 75 years. It was closed in 2003, but the tunnels still exist. The leading universities, Oxford and Cambridge, were founded during the Aztec Empire in Mexico. Oxford was opened in 1096 and Cambridge around 1209. The symbol of English literature is William Shakespeare. However, no one knows what he really looked like because no one has found any portraits of him made during his lifetime. Shakespeare enriched the English language by 1,700 words. The oldest customer service complaint in the UK is a letter about broken barrels written in 1586. The Cambridge University Library and the Bodleian Library in Oxford have copies of every book published in the UK since 1710. St. Trillo's Church in Llandrillo Inydern, Denbighshire, is easy to miss from the road. The church is still in use and is almost 1,500 years old, with seating for only 6 people, all crammed into one small space. Today, anyone can enter the church, whose doors are open to everyone. The first umbrella shop opened in London in 1829. It sold umbrellas and walking sticks. The British love theatre, especially musicals. The Royal Bristol Theatre has been performing Cats since 1766. In England, pets are kept with the approval of special services, and stray animals are very rare. The world's first zoo was opened in England. The fairy tale bear Winnie the Pooh got its name from a real bear from the London Zoo. England is a country with a rich sports history. It is here that football, horse polo, and rugby got their start. The British claim that only they can fully understand English humor, which is so subtle, ironic, and specific. Indeed, many foreigners have a problem with this because of their lack of knowledge of the language. A British pub is a place where everyone knows everyone. The British love pubs. Most people in the country visit a pub several times a week, and some of them go every day after work not only to drink but also to socialize and learn about the latest news. The owner of the establishment often stands behind the bar himself, and patrons buy his drinks at their own expense instead of tipping. But you can't get drunk in English pubs. It is officially prohibited by the laws of the country. We do not recommend checking whether these laws work in practice. In England, it is customary to be polite. In a conversation with an Englishman, there are simply no many thank yous, please and excuses. England has a developed farming industry, and there are more chickens in the country than people. All English TV channels have advertisements, except for the BBC. This is because the work of this channel is paid for by the viewers themselves. If a family in England decides to connect to the TV, it has to pay a license fee of about £145 per year. There have been 38 female prime ministers in the world. There have been 2 in the UK, Margaret Thatcher and Theresa May. The world's first billionaire writer is from London. It is J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter epic. She has sold over 400 million books in 55 languages. The tallest freestanding structure in the UK is the 1,084-foot-high Emily Moore Transmission Station. The Angel of the North in Gateshead is one of the most famous sculptures in the UK. Its wingspan is wider than that of a Boeing 767. It would take a person more than 184 years to spend a night in every hotel room in London. The first lighthouse was built in Great Britain, the Tower of London, in 855 AD. It was converted from the Roman watchtower Pharos. The Blackpool Tower was inspired by a visit to the Eiffel Tower. It was opened in 1894 and became the 150th tallest tower in the world. Queen Elizabeth II was a trained mechanic. During the Second World War, she joined the Territorial Auxiliary Service, where she learned to repair cars. More Scots live abroad than in Scotland. There are about 800,000 descendants of Scots in the United States alone. In Great Britain, stamping a stamp with the Queen's image upside down is considered treason. The Queen is not allowed to be touched in public by anyone except her husband. However, there were those who violated this rule and hugged the Queen. Michelle Obama is among the offenders. It was in England that the men's business suit in its modern form was born. Its prototype was the hunting outfit of British gentlemen. The unicorn is the national animal of Scotland and has been used for centuries in heraldry and coats of arms throughout the UK. The World Wide Web was invented by British scientist Tim Berners-Lee. Scotland has more than 600 square miles of freshwater lakes, including the famous Loch Ness. Wales has over 2,700 castles, more per square mile than any other country in Europe. In the UK, the three most common topics of conversation are sports, the X Factor, and the weather. Mary Shelley's novel Frankenstein was born in 1816 during a horror contest between friends on Lake Geneva. Shelley was only 18 years old when she wrote the book. It is illegal to die within the walls of Parliament. The deceased is technically entitled to a state funeral. The first hot chocolate shop was opened in London. The world's first record store opened in the UK. The first telephone directory for England was published in 1880 and contained 25 names.